Barr, the Executive Director of Council for AFSCME. Jody, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning. My name is Jody Barr, and I serve as the Executive Director of AFSCME Council 4. Joining me today is Council 4 Executive Secretary Stacy Harrison Birdsong. Stacy is also the President of AFSCME Local 3194, representing professionals and related occupations at the Capital Region Education Council schools. Council 4 represents thousands of non-certified school employees in cities and towns across the state. They are paraprofessionals, custodians, secretaries, nurses, cafeteria workers, and bus drivers. Throughout this pandemic, these unsung employees are working harder than ever and at great personal risk to make sure that their kids are all right and safe. We have an amazing community of workers represented here today, and that's what every school is, a community of people coming together where students live, learn, and grow. The 14,000 plus signatures on this petition represent the concerns of their communities. We're asking the governor and the Commissioner of Education to please listen to their voices. Please make sure our school districts follow our recommendations for safe and successful schools. We have a long and hard winter ahead of us. Let's do the right thing by our students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody and Stacy. You've been valuable allies. Finally, we will hear from Carl Chisholm, President of the Municipal Employees Union Independent, MEUI. Carl, so glad you can join us.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning, everyone. As Mary said, my name is Carl Chisholm. I'm the president of CEUI, Local 511, and MEUI 506. We represent custodials and maintenance workers across the state. Custodials are working under an extreme stressful situation. They are trying to keep schools clean and disinfect while operating below recommended pre-pandemic staff levels. Most custodials are in danger of increased risk of injury or burning out over increased workloads and overtime. In a few districts where staffing is not an issue, custodials are dealing with job security concerns as outside vendors have been brought in to help instead of hiring additional staff, putting limited board education funds in supervisors and contractors' pockets instead of employees actually performing the work. Due to need increase disinfecting, custodials are having to replace some relatively safe chemicals which aren't very effective under current conditions with more toxic and dangerous chemicals in order to get the schools clean in a timely manner. All of this under constant threat of loss of income from the pandemic. Custodials are have very limited protection from prolonged leave due to COVID exposure, and should schools close for an extended period of time, they have no guarantee of income without layoff protection. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. The involvement of your members has done a great deal for the unity of this group. To sum up, there is no question about the importance of in-person education. Right now, however, educators and support staff are they are always susceptible and sometimes facing unacceptable risks. Let me be crystal clear. We all want to be in schools with our students, in the school buses, in the cafeteria, in the playgrounds and classrooms. We want that without unnecessarily high risks to ourselves and to our families. We want to know that our needs as employees are considered, as well as the needs of our students in the schools. Our families can make the choice to go to remote learning. Our colleagues do not have that option always. We'd like to entertain some questions from the press if there are any. Who has a question?
The governor's placing high priority on keeping in-person learning open. We argue that schools don't serve as a primary vector for coronavirus, and often says that there's no place or few places safer than somebody's classroom. What do you guys make of that all?
Who'd like to take that question? Thank you, Cynthia.
I'll just address that question. Actually, the Center for Disease Control removed the claim that schools were safe from their official website. And that's because students and support staff are safer at home than in the buildings. Every time the governor claims that we are safe, he loses support and confidence from our members and their parents and students. If schools are safe, let me ask you this. Then why are we constantly quarantining due to infections and exposures?
Thank you, Cynthia. Any other questions?
It appears that the governor is letting local districts decide how to handle things and to report back. Is that not a good platform? Do you guys think that it should be different? He keeps saying that there isn't just one rule for everybody.
We're looking for the does anybody want to answer that? Thanks. We're looking for consistent statewide protocols. What we were promised at the beginning of the school year were recommendations, guidelines, and protocols. What we find is that they're inconsistently applied. And so some schools, if we have those protocols in place and things are working, and it's fine to leave the school open. There are schools where things are working well. But if there are high levels of infection, and Shelley Davis presented a list of the various elements that are mitigating strategies that increase the safety of our schools. At this point, with the levels of infection and without those mitigating strategies, we don't believe schools should be open. And we have not had those protocols enforced.
Is it a fight for the local superintendent as opposed to the governor?
We believe that there is a responsibility for every student. There's an equity question here, and every student and every employee should be able to work without the unnecessary risks. It should not be a local decision. There should be a basis of safety in every district. That's a fundamental thing. Jeff has another answer.
Could I just continue on that a little bit? What we know is that in different places in Connecticut, in different districts, superintendents are under tremendous pressure to try to make sure that every kid is coming into school. We have heard of situations where, for example, students are not wearing their mask, administrators are not ready to send them home. I don't want to send any kid home either, but if they're not there doing what they need to do, then for crying out loud, enforce the standard. The social distancing standard, we started out, and everybody here knows it, at a 6-foot distancing protocol. Where are we now? In some classes, it's down to 2.5 to 3 feet. That is not okay. In other places, it's working. Why? Because they found additional space. They've got more than the classrooms that they had before, and they're working on making sure that all the things are in place. And finally, the last thing that's happening, some sort of testing protocol needs to be in place here, and that needs to be a statewide solution, not an individual town solution. So when all of that is in place, yes, as Mary said, we're ready. We want, I have a Hartford Current paper behind me there. Thousands of deaths could possibly take place in this state. We don't want to lose a child, an educator, a staff person in Connecticut. We don't want to lose anybody, but clearly we need to do as much as we can to make sure they are on the other side of the virus and still here next year for our kids.
Thank you.
Are you concerned at all about the equity issues that arise in remote learning in terms of access of learning and also with the mandated reporting aspect of teaching as well that we saw reports of CPS down
tackle remote equity issues for remote learning, especially in terms of DCF concerns. We certainly care about the fundamental safety and well-being of our students. It needs to be balanced for the safety and well-being of our employees. We do not wish to send any child into harm's way, but we feel that there are circumstances routinely in our schools where our employees are they are in harm's way. There's a quote here of somebody who does not wish to be identified, who lost a family member due to school transmissions. We are facing school staff becoming ill and unwell and risking their lives in order to be in school. We think that there needs to be a careful consideration of the balance of safety for all the members of our school community.
How are you all delivering this petition?
We have the petition right here. Fortunately, it's not the scroll that was so lovely. We have the names right here, and we are delivering them to Mr. Harris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.